Welcome to the latest edition of the Panel B podcast. I'm your host, Alex Jankowski, joined, as always,
What's up?
Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow. Boys, we have a lot to get to, a lot to unwrap from Sunday's NFL action. Got to talk about tonight's NFL action as well. Monday Night Football, we'll hit on it from both a DFS and a sports betting perspective. Baseball in spades, 4 games today on the diamond. We'll see which club can win the hearts. All right, I had one more suit to go, so had to get the hearts in there.
Great.
We'll talk a little bit about those series as well. We will start, though, with the news that came out this morning, the largest news. Jay Gruden had the audacity to lose to the New England Patriots, so he is gone, fired as the coach of the Washington Redskins. Bukes, how are we feeling about this?
The key did not fit, as he said.
Yes.
The key did not fit.
Some context for those who they asked him if, his thoughts on potentially being fired. Yesterday after the loss, he said, if the key still works this morning, I will continue to coach.
Well, they
called
fired
him in at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
That's rough.
they fired him early enough that he didn't get a chance to even try it. But, I mean, the writing's been on the wall for weeks now. Getting fired after losing to the Patriots, you knew they were going to lose that game. But, you and I were talking about it earlier. They wanted Haskins to be under center. He decided to go with Colt McCoy. There's been many, many things prior to this that, that wasn't the final decision, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back, I think. And then they look good to jump. Like, in the first quarter.
They looked good from the jump. They got a lucky end around for 65 yards. And what I will give them is their defensive line played decent out of the gate, getting to Brady, so that the offense took a little while to get going in what was a 33-7 victory. Right. And everybody's saying how poorly the Patriots played offensively. Well,
they didn't look great in the first quarter. I'll give them that.
It took them a little
while.
But then
it turned around.
I would say that was more about the Patriots.
It turned into a normal Patriots-Redskins game. But, like I said, writing's been on the wall. We knew this was coming. If you had your first coach to be fired pool, hopefully you had Gruden in the mix. But
Jay Gruden,
right?
Correct.
Very good
Can't
point.
just double down on Grudens like that.
Right. There's many to choose from. But, that franchise just needs a complete overhaul overall.
And it's never going to come.
No, it's probably not. But in my research, I had totally forgot they had that 1 year in first place where they lost to the Packers in the wild card. Mm-hmm. So poor one out for that season.
Last year they were 6-3 in winning that division when Alex Smith snapped his leg in half.
Oh, yes.
That kind of stinks. But
then they had the carousel of
also
quarterbacks.
Helped catapult assistants such as Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, all on his staff at some point, now head coaches as well. And hey, got to feel pretty good if you're interim coach Bill Callahan. You get to come right in. Your first test is facing the Miami Dolphins.
So that's what I was going to say. I don't really know much about Callahan. Like, do the players like him? Is there anything that he does particularly well? Because, this is a spot where Washington maybe feels a little refreshed and everybody... So the line in that game is Washington -3.5 in Miami. And Steve before the show was like, I kind of like Miami plus the 3.5. And I said, well, that's because we didn't get to see the Dolphins crap their pants on Sunday. We only got to see Washington crap their pants on Sunday. So, maybe there's some value there on Washington if they're going to rally around this new coach versus just tank the season away.
So where the value is going to be, so Callahan's been around forever. He was the Raiders coach when they lost to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. He's 63. He's been around a long time. And he is on the record. Not on the record, actually, I take that back. There's been reports that he was unhappy with the amount of times they were passing the ball.
Uh-oh.
So he wants to run
he's an old coach who wants to establish the run.
Oh, boy.
Look at what the Colts did on Sunday Night Football.
A running back named Adrian Peterson, who probably many feel still has a lot left in the tank. I'm going to go out on a limb and say whatever Adrian Peterson's rushing prop is, take the over. He's going to carry the ball probably 30 times.
And
Dwayne
25
Haskins
yards?
will be under center.
Chris Thompson was crying over Gruden last night. Did you see that in his post-game interview? Yeah,
but,
they were talking.
I don't think anybody's Like, he's not one of those coaches where the reason he was on the hot seat was because he was making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. He was on the hot seat because he's the coach of a franchise that perpetually has their coach on the hot seat and surrounds their coach with talentless players.
Yeah.
Like, what was he supposed to do?
Hey. Chris Thompson's got a family. You know?
Yeah, and Chris Thompson's great.
Okay.
They should be playing him more. You know?
Oh, they should.
They opted not to pay Kirk Cousins, misspelling his name on a press release when they made that decision. Like, it's such a petty franchise that what do you expect? And, it's unfortunate what happened with Alex Smith because that was the plan and it was in place and it was working. And then, obviously these always come down to the relationships between coaches and GMs because it's a delicate balance between the guy who coaches the players and the guy who selects the players. And if you're at the point where, okay, they're drafting a quarterback in the first round that the coach doesn't want, then, obviously you have to pick one side or the other. And more times than not, you go with the revered guy who's, has such a history with the organization, even if recent
That's why I don't even like keeping guys around at this point. Like, why do you just know that you're not going to be good and then fire the coach mid-season? Like, what was Gruden's plan? He didn't like the first-round quarterback pick. He thought he was fine with Colt McCoy and Case Keenum.
He liked McCoy.
Well, that hasn't worked for years. So take that Gruden likes McCoy and use that to just fire him.
I'm sure there's a couple factors there. Kind of game of chicken between the two sides. Like, either he's going to just, cave and play him because he wants to keep his job, or he'll play his guy. His guy will win a couple games. Maybe that one of them thinks that'll happen, or it's let's see how this division kind of shakes out. There's a lot of question marks heading in. Still a lot of question marks now after the Cowboys, kind of recent slip-up. So, at 0-5, obviously, that's kind of out of the question, but at the same time, now you can install someone who's, thinking more toward the future.
Well, you can pencil in Haskins for week 6.
Yeah.
That's coming against the Dolphins.
I would imagine that was the first question before any interim tag was handed.
Yeah, good get right spot for Haskins, I guess. Yeah. We'll see if he can actually do anything.
As in, he'll be on the field.
4,900 this week.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. Let's revisit, though, other things that stood out to this from this past week.
Julian.
You had the Cardinals winning. You had, like you mentioned, the Colts. Maybe that is where we should start, given that 2 of the 3 of us had the Colts in some, or the Chiefs in one way on our picks heading into the weekend. We'll start with the guy who got that game right, Steve Buchanan.
Hi, guys.
You just took plus 10.5. Largest, the only double-digit underdog so far to win outright this year.
Yeah, and to be fair, I didn't think the game would play out like it did. Like, the Colts having just such a difference in the possession time was pretty shocking.
With a running back who was questionable coming into the game.
And he looked really good, too. Like, there was one specific, I think it was like a 15-yarder early in the game where he just was dancing from the side to side and just shot right up the middle. Like, he looked fantastic. He looks explosive out of the backfield. But it was just a bit surprising. Like, we keep saying how it's hard to nail down on the Chiefs who they're going to go to on a week-to-week basis, and this week just added a whole nother layer to it. Pringles chips.
Pringles, baby.
Pringles chips just, it was like he was honing in on him. He had 5 catches or 5 targets, leading into the second quarter.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
Bigger story for me personally, fantasy-wise, is the fact that, once again, Sammy Watkins plays,
oh
quote-unquote, is active, and then just leaves immediately.
Is he not one of the biggest fantasy letdowns on a week-to-week basis?
Is he the Anthony Davis of the NFL?
That's a very good comparison, Eric.
But then you're saying that when he's out there, he's as good as Anthony Davis.
Which is
the only flaw in that.
True. He has that one good game. So who would that be then, from a basketball perspective? That one blow-up game and then just kind of lets back down.
And he plays.
Trying to think of somebody like Anthony Davis who's worse.
A poor man's Anthony Davis.
A poor man's Anthony Davis. Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. I'll think about it as we keep going.
We'll get back to that. But just a really good all around game by the Colts.
Yeah. Shout out to Frank Reich again, and we talked about it on the pod when Andrew Luck retired. The rush was to get the Texans early to win that division before the odds changed. But once they shuck out and you saw where the Colts were, we were like, that's not terrible. It's still a good team with a quarterback who has experience.
I was really impressed with the Colts, and maybe Mahomes isn't right with his ankle. He'll probably be fine next week, but he was obviously not himself late in that game. But the way that the Colts are coached, the way that offensive line, we knew that offensive line all season, all preseason, we were hyping up Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons he was, I had him at the top of quarterback rankings because he wasn't going to be touched with that offensive line. Now with Jacoby Brissett, we're just seeing it come into play more with the run game because that's how the game plan has shaken down for them. But the calls to go for it on the fourth downs, just like then you look at the Cowboys down 21-0 or 24-0 at the time, and they kick the field goal to go down 24-3, and you have Jason Garrett clapping it up on the sideline. Like, that's not how you get back in a game.
Right. Or even later on in that one, they're down 10. They get the 14-yard run with the 15-yard roughing the passer. It takes them to the 25. Okay. There's, 2:15, 2:10 left. Enough that if they just kick the field goal right there, you might not even have to onside it because you have a timeout and you had the 2-minute warning if you could still get the kickoff, off in time, recovery, and then you're done. Instead, no. They continue to try and score a touchdown, which, again, you need both of them. End up wasting, the 2-minute warning came on an incomplete pass, so that was worthless. They took a timeout then, and then they missed the field goal, which almost doesn't even matter.
And then Garrett not getting mad about anything. The only thing he got mad about was a missed penalty, and he got so angry throwing the challenge flag that he got penalized for taunting or whatever during that. It's like, that's the only time you're going to get mad? Get mad about your team not doing anything and try and figure out a way to get back in this game. So just goes to show the sometimes we bet on talent. I think we talked about this with the Browns, like Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah.
Not that great of a coach, but sometimes you can bet on that talent even against a Harbaugh-led Ravens team and come out on top. And just kind of picking your spots. When is the talent going to prevail and when is the coaching going to prevail? Because Matt LaFleur for Green Bay has also taken some heat. I don't think he's been great.
Yeah.
But he obviously smashed Garrett in that matchup. But just going back to the Colts, they seem to get it. So they're not necessarily built to come from behind with Jacoby Brissett. So if they're in the hole that Dallas is in, it's not as good of a spot. But if they can come out and just keep pace with a team like the Chiefs, they seem like they know how to grind out those games based on coaching, based on the offensive line, and just their whole kind of game theory.
Yeah, and we did go with one of the picks at least. We did go talent over coaching. That played out. We'll get to that later on in the picks, though. But, we got to touch on the day from a DFS standpoint when you have as many guys, 3 go
Chalk
over
City.
50 DK points. Who stood out to you? I mean, Will Fuller is a guy we knew was waiting to happen, to pop. And then you had, obviously, Christian McCaffrey's always going to be who he is. But then Aaron Jones, when we really liked the matchup on the other side of the ball, Zeke Elliott, tables have turned.
Well, just for Will Fuller, I mean, I'm assuming he got the game ball after that. He should actually go over to the Falcons locker room and hand it over to Desmond Trufant because that's where the majority of his production came from.
That was the real showdown, was the Dan Quinn versus Jay Gruden, who would be first to go.
So Fuller was against Trufant and was targeted 7 times. He caught 6 of those receptions for 124 yards and all 3 of the touchdowns. Like, just absolutely dominated that matchup. It was just amazing. Like, we knew that this was coming. Fuller, I think, was leading the league in air yards, but we still hadn't had that big game yet. But this is the problem with Will Fuller. He'll have a game like this, and then he'll kind of fall back into he'll disappear.
Yeah.
Because there's so much talent on that team too. Like, pretty soon it's going to be, well, he's not getting the ball to DeAndre Hopkins, which, and we were talking about this earlier, Hopkins has faced a lot of tough coverage. He's seen Casey Hayward. He's seen Marshawn Lattimore. He's seen a lot of tough coverage. And now they're going to go face the Chiefs, which is a, pretty soft matchup overall, but this is a problem with Will Fuller. He's good for these blow-up games, but he's not like that consistent guy that's going to put up those numbers each and every week. He'll be in double digits every week, but you're not going to get these big explosions every week on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, so a guy, obviously it's a great GPP play, but it's just whether or not you want to trust him in your cash lineup, because if you don't have him and he goes off, though, you're really facing an uphill battle.
You gotta pick the spots with both him and the Falcons spot, just targeting against the Falcons. And this week that'll be Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk if he's healthy enough. Atlanta at Arizona, that should set up really well for some offense this week. But just sticking with last week, Will Fuller. I played Fuller and McCaffrey in cash and had to sweat out Zeke in the 4 p.m. game because I didn't have Michael Thomas, who had 40 whatever. I didn't have Aaron Jones was only 15 to 20% owned in cash, but didn't have him, and so it just showed, up at like 200 points with only 2 4 p.m. games, you're still sweating out a cash line in double ups. It was just that kind of week. Will Fuller was about 40% owned across cash. McCaffrey was about a little over 60 to 65 in most of the contests I looked at. So, like, if you had the people that had any combination of McCaffrey, Fuller, and either like Michael Thomas or Aaron Jones, they were pushing or cracking 300 points, which is crazy. Ridiculous.
Yeah, Millie Maker lineup 333, I believe.
Well, it was 333. I was just about to ask. Jeez,
that high?
Yeah, Bridgewater was the QB.
It was 313, but maybe.
Bridgewater. Anybody talk about that guy on Sunday?
Did you play him?
Yeah, I did actually.
Did you win the Millie Maker?
Yeah, 331.86.
331.
Yeah, so Bridgewater, and then obviously McCaffrey, Fuller, and Jones. Eagles DST with 35 points.
Yeah,
was huge.
Throw them in there. That's
what they end up with?
35.
Only real dud was James White, 13.2, and Cook at 14. But everyone else, Godwin. It's insane, absolutely insane Sunday.
Was the Eagles the highest scoring DST of the season? What was the Patriots that 1 week? Was it 42?
I think 37.
Was it 37?
So still higher, I think.
Yeah, it was higher. That's where we're at. We'll talk a little bit about Monday night then as well, get you guys set there. But let's talk some baseball because we do have 4 teams potentially who could close out. DK Sportsbook over here saying if you want to parlay all 4 on the money line, you're talking about 12-1 odds, more or less.
Let's go.
Dodgers and Braves plus
DK
money.
Sportsbook
Astros and Yankees are favored. Sorry to do this, Bukes, but we got to start. Can your Twins at least get a game here?
Ah, come on. What do we have to start with this for? Who cares?
Because I think, I'll play Captain Hindsight here, and we talked about all the home runs that the Twins hit. Guess what? The Yankees hit 1 fewer in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. So what?
Both teams had to kind of pitch.
Couldn't be
or
enough.
At least hit their way out of it.
So what really threw a wrench in the whole thing was, and the Yankees, to their credit, did the smart thing, was they avoided Tanaka on the road.
Right.
So in my head, when I played this out, they beat the lefty Paxton, which did not happen. They probably lose to Severino at home, so they'll probably lose today. And then they get Tanaka at home, maybe Happ in 4 or Paxton again, and then whatever the hell happens in Game 5. That did not play out. So it does not look good right now.
Aaron Boone was not in your head, unfortunately.
What has me a little, I'm not sure about, is Odorizzi, because he's been pretty good overall. Like, Odorizzi didn't have a bad season, but 11 home runs at home, 11 of his 16, which is not great. And then we've seen in the 2 games, the Twins just have nothing in that bullpen. Like, when you're relying on the names of, like, Tyler Duffy to get you through 3 innings, like, you're in trouble.
Well, don't even go to the bullpen. How about the fact they have an Uber driver starting Game 2? Like, you talk about teams that needed to make to address issues.
Some of us people have to do side hustles. You know what I mean?
I'm not.
True.
I'm not saying that to demean, his profession. I'm doing it to talk about the preparedness going into the postseason. No watch today. Humble, hooded sweatshirt.
Very humble.
Man of the people. Didn't shave. I'm with you, but come on.
No, I mean, I always knew going into this postseason that pitching was going to be their biggest flaw. Like, everybody knows that. But the offense has been good enough that it's overcome those issues. So going against a team like the Yankees, who, quite frankly, have had struggles in their rotation. Like, Paxton had a good end of the season, but he struggled most of the year. Tanaka's a total wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Severino's looked good, but he's only pitched a few starts so far. So at least for me, I felt like the Twins at least had the upper hand on the rotation. I didn't think it would turn into this massive cluster so quickly. And they're already in this 2-0 hole.
Good catch.
But, I had cluster the whole day. It was never even don't worry about that.
Veteran radio.
I
man.
don't think they're going to win this series, but
Neither do I.
I'm emotionally and financially invested in this, so I would like them to win this series, but not looking great. Not great.
If we're picking one team to extend, I mean, I think the obvious choice is the Nationals because they're at home with Max Scherzer.
Is it?
All right.
If it wasn't just Rich Hill, though, is tough. I would love to fade Scherzer, and I did in that wild card game against Milwaukee and felt great about it until it fell apart at the very end.
Well, I guess maybe, yeah, all right. Then I won't preface that question then, and I'll just ask it. Of the 4 teams facing elimination, who do we like the best?
Are you still going on with your take?
Of the 4 teams facing elimination, who do
Okay.
we like the best?
So the Rays with Charlie Morton at home, Dakota Hudson for the Cardinals at home, Scherzer.
I would go Cardinals.
Yes. I was going to say the Cardinals too. Now, offensively, they've had their issues. And this has kind of been the narrative all season long.
Yes.
Yes, is they've had their issues. But I like Dakota Hudson a lot in this game. And I like the Cardinals bullpen over the Braves bullpen. Now, obviously, it hasn't looked that way in the postseason, a la Carlos Martinez. But aside from that, they've been fine.
Starter being a closer.
Yeah, it's not the way to do it. But I think of the teams going today, I think the Cardinals have the best chance to extend the series. I agree with Julian that Rich Hill is always a wild card. And with the way Dave Roberts pulls pitchers, it wouldn't be a surprise to see him out of there quickly if there's issues. But if that's the case, then, you get a Scherzer at least a somewhat decent start from him because it hasn't been lately. But getting Rich Hill out of there early and a decent start from Scherzer, you're in kind of cruise control there.
So here's what I'm thinking. I don't trust Rich Hill. Otherwise, I would bet the Dodgers. But I'm not on board with Scherzer. I just don't think he has it right now. And he hasn't for 6 straight starts or
rightfully
more.
So.
So Dodgers team total's 3.5. The game total is 8, and I just said I don't like Rich Hill much on the other side. I think either of those, pick which one you like more, I guess. The game total at 8 or the Dodgers at 3.5, and that's where I would be looking in this game.
So no one. So I like the Rays. Charlie Morton at home, former
That's
team, etc. Greinke,
that is
not
a tough one.
The greatest track record in the postseason, and it's not. I mean, it's the case for all of these teams who can clinch, but it's not obviously a point where the Astros are going to sell out to win this one game, right? So that's kind of where I'd go. Probably an under game though too. Looking right now, that game is at 8 as well. 9 Yankees Twins is the highest out of those 4. So that's what we're looking at there. And unless anyone has any other thoughts here on baseball.
I think the way that Twins-Yankees series has been going, I kind of like over 9 there.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Severino has had a lot of problems in the postseason. He hasn't been all that great, and he's on the road. And Odorizzi, I know he was great at home to begin the season. He fell off a little bit and had really rough outings against the Yankees. This just feels like a series where both teams have had solid pitching all season, but it's about the offenses with both teams.
The Twins are going to have to hit themselves back into the series.
Exactly.
You're not going to be able to just cling to a 4-2 lead, going into the 9th or anything.
No.
Right.
Nope.
So there's been offense all series. I don't know why that would change with the pitchers, in theory, getting worse into Game 3.
I would say though, Twins Astros ALCS would be pretty entertaining.
So would Yankees Astros.
Yeah.
That's
Boring.
what we're gonna get.
Boring. Get somebody else in there for a change.
Because the Twins hit all those homers, and the Yankees only hit one fewer.
And they're still fewer. Second place is still
Astros
second place.
Had fewer than that.
Second place doesn't win. First place wins. That's just math.
Yep. And I think I'd pick the Astros in either of those series.
Fine.
Let's head back to the NFL.
Okay.
No stacks today, unfortunately, for those who are looking for the all-time stacks. We're going to pick that back up on Wednesday. producer Matt not in the house, so we're gonna, we're a family. We won't leave anyone behind. So when he comes back, we'll have some great stacks ready for him. But
let us know when you're available.
But before that, we have some bets to talk about.
Yeah, Julian, let's talk about our bets.
I went 1-1.
Let's flash back. Let's flash back last week when Jules, for the first time, his big parlay did not hit. So he went back to the not back to the drawing board. He went right back to the well. How'd that one work out?
Fell apart early. The first game, Miami tanked it, so I didn't even care about the Chiefs game at that point.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech stinks. Lost to Boston College. Lost to Duke. Got blown out by Duke. One of the worst teams in college football. It just marches down to Miami and is up 28-0 in the blink of an eye. So Virginia, not Tech, Virginia goes to Miami as an underdog this week. Maybe it's a bounce back spot for Miami, but Virginia's been really good. I kind of like them.
All right.
So I'm going to turn my loss into another play.
Okay. I was giving you a little leeway to talk about the one you got right.
Well, yeah, team totals against the Patriots with terrible teams. Washington comes out, gets that lucky touchdown, and now I'm thinking all they need is one more touchdown to hit the over here, but the Patriots defense locks in again, and it's not to make excuses for them because they did give up 7 points, but the only way people have been scoring on the Patriots is reverse laterals to some guy we've never heard of who slips out of a couple tackles in a corner and then gets a 65-yard touchdown. Like, everything they're giving up seems to be like a fluke trick play or a special teams blunder or a backup quarterback pick six. It's just so hard for other teams to get points on the board. That's just going to be a spot to look at all season.
I looked that kid up after the game. He had like 9 rushes in college, and he had like 9 total yards. It was ridiculous.
Wow, what a great coach to draw up that play. Wonder if we could get someone like him. I will say, kind of a bummer for the Redskins that they had that play early because it was such an embarrassment for the New England defense that you knew they weren't scoring a single point after that.
After that play, the Patriots went to -7.5 on the live line, which is...
Yeah, they did.
That was...
interesting.
If I could have made that my play at that time, I would have.
Well, that one actually hit no matter what. So you're under on Washington hit.
Follow at Julian Edlow.
And to answer your question before you even ask it, yes, we are in the middle of a very cold streak, but the season began on a hot one. You gotta take the good with the bad. No, I will not be stepping away from the heavy money line favorite parlay. I will be going back to the well.
Help.
And working harder on it to make sure that it hits.
Talk about having to take the bad with the good. We'll take a look at the updated record board in a little bit, see if you have to do that. But Bukes, how was your weekend?
Yep, we're 2-0 in the picks,
Which were?
So that was the Colts at plus
10.5.
And I'm trying to think what the other one was.
It was the Texans -5.
Oh, right. Just because I was so angry at the Falcons.
Atlanta, yeah.
That's right. So sometimes it's good to bet emotionally. I wouldn't say to do that on a normal basis, but when it comes to the Falcons against the spread, you may bet emotionally. That works out okay. To be totally honest, that game could have gone either way for the first, felt like 3 quarters.
Sure.
And then it just really kind of broke open after that.
Because they still stopped covering.
Yes, exactly. But, it just kind of continues the trend of how bad the Falcons have been against the spread. I think since last year, they've only won 6 times so far. I'll have to get an updated record on that. But they've just been someone to pick on against the spread. And then this week, I don't even know who they're going up against as of yet. So let's do a little delay.
Looking at Falcons, they're in Arizona.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know about that one.
That'll be the game that Dan Quinn gets fired, right?
Well,
you can't beat Arizona.
It's got to be coming.
Especially, and you lose the way that a defensive-minded coach is going to lose.
Yep.
Just continuously getting blown out.
I don't know how high the expectations were for them, but 1-4 is just unacceptable for the amount of talent they have on that team. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Freeman sometimes. I know injuries, defensively have been an issue for them, especially the past 2 seasons, but they're better than a 1-4 team.
Sure, and all the names you talked about were on the offensive side of the ball.
Right,
kind of plays a role there. So ho hum, another 2-0 week for myself. We hit on the Patriots spread.
That was a tough one.
Well, I mean, it's the same odds. It had better.
The live line got to 7.5, so it was in jeopardy.
The odds were better than some parlays we talk about.
That parlay was -110. That was a straight up normally juiced bet. It just lost.
I believe I had saw the tweet come through. I mean, that was the most bet spread on DK Sports.
Yeah,
by far.
It had to be.
This season or just on the week?
On the week at least.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Come on. And then the other one was the Broncos. Broncos were +6.5 going up against the Chargers. And
what the hell?
Second straight week where I said, I'm going to go with talent over coaching. The Broncos were a better team than the record indicated. A couple coaching errors, a couple really bad penalty errors as well kept them out of the win column. Wasn't sure necessarily they'd win, but that defense is starting to gel a little bit. And even though I bashed Flacco as a one-hit wonder in that same episode, still competent. Still
look pretty good, honestly.
They got some good, with the running game. So not to say I'm going back to that well too many times, but the well of talent likely will be the case, which is once again an excellent segue to talking about tonight's game. Browns +5 on the road against the 49ers, one of the few undefeated teams left. Feels like they haven't even played this season. I don't think I've actually seen
it's
a 49ers
a weird spot.
clip.
We haven't even
seen them in
the
2 weeks.
On the other hand, we've seen the Browns a ton. We've seen them. They're always in prime time, either playing. They lambasted the Jets, then they got the had the draw on 4th and 9 against the Rams. They rebounded well against the Ravens, so +5 for the Browns. My inflection probably gave you a thought of how I'm leading there, but who wants to start us off here?
The problem is that the 49ers haven't played anybody.
Right.
They played the Buccaneers, the Bengals, and the Steelers. So
and the Buccaneers, I mean,
there's no team that
Buccaneers
goes back and forth like the Bucs.
Exactly.
They win a huge game in LA, they've been going back and forth the entire season.
So I would say this is probably their toughest matchup to date.
Yeah.
Who they're facing today. So I feel like this is we'll get a better grasp of them, what they look like, because defensively they've been incredible. This is a team that couldn't generate a turnover to save their lives.
Right.
And now they've done so on a number of occasions so far already. So it's just it's hard to gauge where they're at because, like we said, we haven't seen them play. They've only played 3 games up to this point, so it's tough to get a gauge of where they're at. But getting 5 points for the Browns, I feel like, is the bet to make here. If you're going to play some money down on this game, that just feels like enough. I think we saw enough from the Browns last week to feel that they're starting to get into at least some type of groove than whatever shambles they were in during the first 2 weeks. But it's kind of a tough game to gauge, at least for me right now.
Yeah, I think the groove is feed Nick Chubb and play off that.
I'm not feeling it's that tough. I like the talent here in the Browns, and I'm going to keep saying that the Ravens are overrated because they are, but the Browns still convincingly defeated them in Baltimore. Yeah. And again, we just haven't seen that much of the 49ers. The 49ers have come off the bye week, so they've had more time to prepare, but at the same time, are they hearing a little bit too much in their ears like, wow, you're only other undefeated team now outside of the Patriots now that the Chiefs have gone down? Do they think too much of themselves because they were able to pick off Jameis Winston twice, beat Andy Dalton, and beat Mason Rudolph in his first start? If you're going to get too high on yourself after doing those things, you're going to come crashing down, and the Browns have the talent. They've taken some ugly defeats this year and are trying to work their way back from it. I think the Browns can win this game, so that's why I would probably take – and they're +200. I would probably take whatever you're going to bet in this game and split it in half and put half on +5, half on the +200 money line, and see where that takes you.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't really know if they are getting that high and mighty. Haven't really seen much. I haven't just seen any.
Right, you don't hear anything. What are they doing
at all? They're chilling out in that stadium that's miles away from the city they're named after. One note that from a fantasy angle, Tevin Coleman is expected to play. Is expected to play tonight, and he is he's 5,600 on DK. How are we looking? I think Chubb, to me, makes the most sense. He's the second most expensive player, $10,200. Odell's $200 more. To me, he's kind of my anchor. But after that, like, how are we even thinking about divvying up, the 49ers side of the ball, or if we're going to stack up on the Browns?
It is so difficult because without Coleman, they've been using like this three-headed monster with, Raheem Mostert,
Breida.
Jeff Wilson, and Breida.
Yeah.
Wilson has basically been their goal line back.
Mm-hmm.
So it just comes down to how much they're going to use Coleman. Like, I can't imagine they're going to throw him out there and he's going to take, 60% of the snaps.
Kyle Shanahan loves him some Tevin
I
Coleman.
know he does. He does. But, like, the running back situation is so tough to gauge because they had the three guys going to begin with. Now you throw Coleman into the mix. Who's going to be the one that loses out? I would want to think that Wilson's still going to be involved because they've trusted him with basically all the goal line carries. Signed off the practice squad when Coleman was hurt, and then he just kind of took over that role. And then, Breida and Mostert has just been a 50-50 other than that. So that's tough. That's really, really tough to come down to.
And we've yet to see, like, a big George Kittle performance this season. I think anyone who really watched him last year saw that there was an insane amount of plays where he caught the ball and there was no one within like 15 yards of him, and he just ran forever, and that's not necessarily duplicatable this year. However, like, he had a 36-yard catch in a game where he only got 3 targets, but other than that, 54, 54, 57 are his yardage totals, and he hasn't found the end zone yet.
He's also had 3 touchdowns called back already.
Sure.
So that's
sure.
That's
That's
a problem.
So you're a glass half full kind of guy when it comes to Kittle.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I did not know that the 49ers have allowed the fewest DK points per game to the running back position.
But through 3 games.
Through 3 games.
Right.
But it's still on a per game.
No, for sure.
Whatever, per 5 games per.
Right, and it just depends how much you want to break down
like,
competition versus reality.
I'm not going to put much weight in that, and I still agree that Chubb should be the anchor of at least a cash lineup.
Yep. And again, just going through the games there, Buccaneers, Bengals, Steelers. So, the Buccaneers had the majority of that, too. They had 108 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, take that for what it's worth. But, yeah, but this is why I'm kind of like, I feel like they're just so hard to gauge, because you look at numbers like that and you're like, oh, are they actually that good against it, or is it just because they haven't really played anybody yet?
Yeah, I need to see something from the Niners. I'm still going to be all over the Browns in this one and go with the talent. They seem to be trending in the right direction.
Yep.
But especially with that game being in Baltimore versus Cleveland, shows that they can do it on the road. They're going to be in the road in this one. And the Browns are also just like a primetime team. Like, I feel like the personalities of Mayfield, OBJ, Nick Chubb, who knows, because the guy doesn't really talk, but you've seen him in like 2 interviews. But that core of Beckham and Mayfield seem like they get up for primetime games.
Hey, sleeper Jordan Matthews just signed by the 49ers.
Even on the slate?
Is he in the pool?
$600.
Whoa!
Red zone target always seems to catch a touchdown every now and then, so throw that one out there.
Who's he in place of? Hurd?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurd went to IR.
Yep.
That's right.
Debo Samuel outside of Garoppolo is the highest priced wide receiver at 6 for the 49ers at 66, with Goodwin at 64. Goodwin, who showed a good report early on with Garoppolo, like back, before the ACL, such a boomer bust play though. And yeah, I mean, I think, the upside play certainly is still going to be Kittle, paying up for him at 9,000. But yeah.
Oh, don't fall for the Landry trap. He's going to let you down. He stinks.
I agree. I actually do agree with that.
He stinks.
He stinks.
Yep. You heard it here first. Panel B. He stinks.
We'll get word out. We'll get word out to his people. It has been ruled that he stinks.
Andrew Kashner. Yep.
Yes, Andrew Kashner. All right. See, we don't have this.
Anything else we have to get in to fill our quota? Andrew Kashner references.
You're on a very cold streak.
Ice cold. But read my cash game articles that go up on DK Nation, because I've been making it all back in cash on the cash slates. And
in one account,
the picks will turn around. The Twitter plays will turn around.
Yeah, we hope so.
I mean, it was 4-6. It was 4-6 yesterday.
That's a losing week.
It is. I'm just saying. It's not like
It is,
not like we're getting rid of the house or selling everything off. Fire sale here. 4 and 6.
I've heard some rumors about you, so I'll leave it at
Must
that.
not be true.
Ladies and gentlemen, I interrupt this program to tell you that the odds and lines are subject to change. Please see website for actual odds. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and would like some help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That is going to do it for the Panel B podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday. Producer Matt will be back as well to whip us into shape and actually give us some structure here. We'll be back with a fun all-time stack. I haven't had a good idea yet in the shower as to what that stack will be. That's where I get my good ideas.
What?
All the good ideas.
That's weird, man. You're always touching my drink and you're thinking stuff in the shower. Weird dude.
Hey, man, you take the good ideas when they come. Some they just don't come at all. So, that's where we are at. I'm just going to wrap up the show now.
Okay.
For Panel B, we have Julian Edlow.
Ice cold.
We have Steve Buchanan.
Red hot.
Yeah, there's no ice in that drink. That is why. And your hand is... I'm Alex Jankowski. We'll see you next time.